Good morning, students. Today I am going to explain the second part, continuing after completing the page number 10 and 11 from the second part of the second part. Today I am going to continue the page number 11 and 12. Okay, the second part. Yesterday I have taught you the page number 9 and 10. Okay, 10 and 11. Then continue the page number 12. Captain Jim McPherson, I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. Yesterday I talked about the meeting between Hans Wolf and Mr. Jim McPherson. Okay, Hans Wolf tightly shake hand with Mr. McPherson, and today he said means Mr. McPherson said happy Christmas to you, replied him. Okay, yesterday Hans Wolf wish Mr. McPherson to happy Christmas, and today the page number 12 Miss Jim McPherson replied him same to you, means happy Christmas to you. Now he said, means Mr. McPherson said about himself. What he said, see, I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. Now he said about himself. Mr. McPherson said he was a school teacher. Where? In Dorset, in the west of England. Yesterday, Hans Wolf said he was playing a cello in orchestra. Okay, and he was from Düsseldorf. So today, Mr. McPherson said to him, Hans Wolf, that he was a school teacher. Where? In Dorset. Where it is located? In the west of England. Oh, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. Okay. Then Mr. Hans Wolf said, Dorset. He smiled and said, Dorset, I know this place. He already knew that place. Means Hans Wolf knew that place where he was a teacher. Means Mr. McPherson was a teacher. Then we shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage, and we talked. Connie, how we talked. Then he exchanged, means he shared their rum rations and sausage. Rum ration means one type of wine, and sausage. Dabba kush. Okay, they both share with each other. And he talked. How he talked? We see. He spoke almost perfect English, but it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset, never even been to England. Now, Mr. McPherson was surprised. He was German, so he knew Spanish, his own language, but he was speaking perfectly English, little bit, without any mistake. He used English perfectly, so he was surprised that. Okay, but he never been to England before, though he was a good command over the English. Okay, so that was a surprise for Mr. McPherson. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. Hans Wolf knew English when in school time by reading the books of English and visiting the school, his own school, learned from the school English. His favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. Hans Wolf knew the English how? By reading the books. And his favorite writer, Thomas Hardy. Thomas Hardy was a famous writer of England. Okay, and his book was Far from the Madding Crowd. Then Hans Wolf learned the English from this book and the other reading material. So out there in no man's land, we talked of Bathsheba and Gabriel and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. Now, he talked about the character of the book, Thomas Hardy's book. Which book? Far from the Madding Crowd. Okay, he talked about the character of the books. The characters are Bathsheba, Gabriel, or Sergeant Troy. These are the characters. He talked about that. As I looked about me, there were puddles of khaki and grey everywhere, all over no man's land. Smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, and eating. Okay, out of this, he looked everywhere. There are so many soldiers coming over on the no man's land. What they were doing? They were laughing, talking, smoking, drinking, and eating. But where? In no man's land. Means no one's property. Hans Wolf and I said, what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie? And on no man's land, what was left? That the Connie made the cake and gave it to Mr. McPherson, and that was to give this cake, means send this cake to German officer, means Hans Wolf. He thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted, and Hans Wolf thought that this was the best cake ever had he tasted. I agreed, means Mr. McPherson also agreed that the marzipan, this cake was the best cake ever. They both were tasted. We agreed about everything, and he was my enemy. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. Okay, now the letter, what he said in letter, we agreed about everything. After tasting the cake, they both were agreed with each other about the cakes and everything. What happened there? And he was my enemy. But who he was? He was the opposite person. He was the enemy of the British, means the Mr. McPherson's enemy, the German's officer, Hans Wolf. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. Never had been they celebrated this Christmas before. Okay? He was written these things in his letter, Mr. McPherson, to Connie. The next paragraph. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Grey coats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew, it was Tommy against Freeze, out of the middle of the no man's land. Then someone from the Germans, okay, the German soldiers, one of the German soldiers brought out the football, and grey coats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the Germans, so many Germans making the goalpost using their coats, grey coats. And the next thing we knew, it was Tommy against Freeze, out of the middle of the no man's land. Means the Germans against the Britishers. The Freeze means Germans, and the Tommy means the Britishers. Germans against the Britishers. They play football match. Where? In no man's land. Hans Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. And the officers from the Britishers and the Germans, Hans Wolf and McPherson, they both looked and cheered about their team, clapping their hands and stamping our feet. Why clapping our hands and stamping their feet? Why? Because they feel too much cold, and removing the cold, they are stamping and rubbing and hitting their feet to keep out the cold. Okay, there was a moment when I noticed our breath mingling in the air between us. Then the both air, the Germans and the British, both are mingling, means together, they mingling with each other. He saw it too and smiled, Jim McPherson. He said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war. The both were agreed, and Jim McPherson, he said after a while, little bit. Okay, after a while he said, this is how we resolve the war. First World War in 1914. You're not using the weapons, but using and playing this game, football match. This is how we solve our problem. So what happens is, a football match. No one dies in football match. No children are orphaned. No children are orphaned. No wives become widows. This is how, by playing the football match, no children are orphaned. No women, okay, there are no wives become widow by playing the football match, and no nobody means nobody was died by using this by playing the game football. I would prefer cricket, I told him. Then we Tommies could be sure of winning probably. But what the German Mr. McPherson said, I would suggest to play cricket. Why? Because they are usually played the cricket. That is why he said. Then we Tommies means the British could probably win. Winning ratio will be more by playing the cricket. That much Mr. McPherson thought. We laughed at that and together we watched the game, say Connie. Freeze won, 2 goals to 1. Okay, they both officers, Mr. Jim McPherson and Sue, they both laughed and watched the game. Which game? Football game against British against Germans. Okay, and Mr. McPherson sadly said that who was won? The Germans won. The Germans played the game football and they are taking 2 goals, and the Britishers only make the 1 goal. So Germans won. But as Hansford generously said, our goal was wider than theirs, so it wasn't quite fair. Their goals was wider than that was not much fair. Okay, but at the time, and all too soon when the game was finished, the snaps and the rum and the sauces had long since run out, and we knew it was over. After playing the football game, using the rum ration, wine and sausage, then the time later, that was over. Playing the game over. The next, I wish Hanswolf and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon. I wish. Hanswolf means Mr. McPherson wish. Now after completing this means playing this game and the war would be over, Hanswolf will be going to his home and meet his wife. He would visit his family. That the fighting would end and we could all go home. The fighting between the Germans and the Britishers would completely done. And they both, Germans and the Britishers, would go home. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides, Hanswolf said. Now the Hanswolf said, this is how, means every soldiers want. What the every soldiers want to complete this game, playing the football match, this game would be completed and probably nobody would die. So every soldier wants to use the football match or whatever game, using the game. Nobody used the weapon and nobody harmed anyone. Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly, I felt. Now what the Jim McPherson said, Hanswolf said to Jim McPherson, take care. He saluted and walked to his officers unwillingly, that he, Mr. McPherson, filled it. He turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. Then he went back, means Hanswolf went back his grey-coated officer, one of the grey-coated officer, and went to his trenches. That night, back in our dugouts, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. It was stillness, means silent night. There was a silent night. They went back their dugouts, means the trenches. Okay, and they heard the singing, carol singing. They were singing beautifully. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent. We had our time of peace and goodwill. At a time I will preserve as long as I live. After sometimes they use coercion. After sometimes they both Germans and the Britishers both silent. But what the Mr. Jim McPherson thought that I never forget this moment. Which moment? This happened by playing game, exchanging the rum ration and wine and cake, all the things. They keep these things in his mind. So he would never forget this moment. Dearest Connie, Christmas time next year. This war will be nothing but a distance and terrible memory. This time, by the next year, Christmas Day, this time will nothing. It would be only a memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. And that things, this war, he thought that this is the time we play the football match, and next morning this is the only memories. Okay? And not both the armies for long peace. And I think he knew it will be not resolve this war between these two armies. He knew we shall be together again soon. I am sure of it. Means the Germans and the Britishers. Okay, he sure to once he visited in the no man's land or between the Germans and the British. They went to their trenches and once he visited. Okay, this is the second part I have completed. Then next tomorrow I will explain the third part of it. Okay, thank you.